What's the closest you've ever come to dying? My grandpa falling asleep at the wheel on a road trip, lol. Neurism. Spent 3 months in hospital learning how to walk. I see my arm and hand again. Wouldn't recommend. Check your blood pressure, folks. Swallowed a whole cherry unchewed accidentally. Couldn't breathe and was in full panic since I was hiking alone. It eventually dislodged from my jumping around and bending. I got a knife in the chest from a friend of mine. Had to have stitches, but I lived. Stepped on 2 IEDs that failed to go off. Also, rolled my Bradley over one that didn't pop. Jeez, what's the failure rate on those things? In other words, how lucky were you? Car accident. Broke through a safety barrier and off a bridge. Flew across the river and slammed into the bank on the other side. Had it not been so cold, the river would not be frozen and we would have drowned most likely. Basically, slammed into cement of a frozen river. Yep, pretty much. My buddy was driving and slammed his head on the steering wheel. This was before airbags. He had a pretty bad concussion. We did walk away from death though. Overdose. Tester bag of heroin from my dealer when I was 17 years old. Immediate, intense itch in my hands was the last thing I remembered. Woke up in my room 4 hours later and puked black, ashy liquid, which apparently has something to do with bleeding in the belly from the body starting to shut down. 14 years sober now, but that was a close one. When I was 21, I made horrible life choices. I was smoking a blunt in my car down the street from my house because I didn't want to share the top shelf I had bought myself with my roommate. As I was finishing up, a cop quietly pulled up behind my vehicle and hit his lights. Instinctually, I swallowed the 11 2-milligram Xanax bars that were in my pocket. Cop ended up letting me off, but said he'd follow me home to make sure I truly lived right down the street. I opened my door and waved. He drove off. I proceeded to turn my garden hose on full blast and tried to puke up the pills. Nothing came up. They dissolved quickly. I don't remember what happened next, but I woke up in the ER. I had overdosed. To this day, I have no clue who drove me to the ER. My roommate wasn't even home that night. I didn't have a girlfriend. No one ever said anything. I didn't drive myself, clearly. Blessed to be alive. A car crash for me as well. Considering other comments, cars might be most dangerous things in our daily lives. Motorcycles, even worse. Every ride is gambling one's life. Got hit by car while cycling. My head went partly through the windshield before flying over the car, landing on the ground behind it. Drowning. Got stuck under a raft on a school field trip. Just remember being underwater and turning, trying to find a way out, then waking up on the side of the river surrounded by everyone. A friend apparently realized I was gone and jumped in and pulled me out. Thanks, Allison. I'll never forget that. FGPFF. Ladder while putting up Christmas lights. Broke 3 ribs and ored my lung. Immediately went into shock. Not fun. Good to go. Back in 2020, I had a 15-minute status seizure in my sleep. My roommate found me blue on the floor. In 2022, I was homeless after losing my job from epilepsy. I was out changing my tire. Some guy put a gun to my head and pulled the trigger. It didn't go off. I'm a different person now. Trying to replace a flat, driver's side tire on the right lane of an exit ramp at night. Laying there, a car tire drove a few inches from my face. Had a drunk guy corner me and my friend with a samurai sword and threaten us for a half hour. Been hit in the head with an aluminum bat, probably forgetting a few others. When I was a firefighter, I had a few very close calls. Escaped a building just as it backdrafted and exploded. Another time, I had smoke inhalation so bad I lost most of my lung function for months. Then there were times I was shot at but was missed. Do those count?
I live in Alaska, and I did whitewater kayaking with my buddy for the first time. A month later, I did the same section without him, but didn't pay attention and it was high water. I ended up swimming in pretty crazy water for almost 10 minutes. Got my raft and paddle, but was so exhausted by the time I could actually get to the side of the river. When I was younger, I was riding my S1000RR sports bike on the freeway in Denver at about 90 miles per hour. I hit a pothole and got the speed wobbles. Took about 5 seconds of violent whipping back and forth to finally correct it. Bruised knees on both sides and a racing heartbeat for a few minutes, and I was fine. Fell down a glacier while backpacking. I was learning how to swim, and one day, the pool was nearly empty. Everyone got out, and I was still in the pool. Being a curious kid, I decided to go to the deeper end of the pool and nearly drowned. If it wasn't for that rope hanging there, I'd be dead. Diagnosed with a type of blood cancer at 13, had a seizure, and then went into a medically induced coma. Developed diabetes for a few months due to the medication. Beat cancer. A few months later, I relapsed and had to do a few rounds of radiotherapy. Needed a bone marrow transplant. Stayed in hospital for 40+ days, beat it again, and doing pretty well currently almost 4 years later. Driving drunk. Blew a .285. Yikers, never again. When was this? About 20 years ago. A nurse told me before that I can eat a chicken since my medicines are halfway done. I had TB, so no chickens or seafood allowed. So my mother and I believed that it was okay. Yet I ran out of breath after eating just a piece of chicken, and I almost died for a chicken. The nurse was fired by the doctor after all that happened. Managed to get a bacterial and viral infection in my lungs at the same time. A few times, while going through it, I couldn't breathe. Scary shit. Like pinhole vision, unable to breathe, and then it would open up. Spun out on a tiny patch of wet road in a corner on the Blue Ridge Parkway. I looked directly over the drop-off as the car rolled backwards 1 foot away from the incline. No damage, but I saw God that day. I was drowning in the ocean when I was 8. I tried swimming to the shore, but the water kept pulling me farther and pushing me hard under the water. Thankfully, a lifeguard came out and saved me. I also fell out of an apartment complex 3rd-story window when I was 2. I somehow landed in a flower pot, and so I didn't hit my head on the concrete and die. I got helicoptered to a hospital. Was standing under a massive tree when it fell. I ducked down, like that'd have helped, and when I realized I was still alive, I looked up to see the trunk inches from my head. It caught itself with one of its own branches, which is why I wasn't crushed to death. Lightning hit a tree about 40 meters away from me. Playing cricket, it started raining, so we were putting the covers on the pitch, then all of a sudden, boom!